Philadelphia! And a happy Monday to you. Jalen Carter returns to practice. Whew! We can check that one off of the books from last week. And I can't wait to talk about Jahad Campbell with you and our favorite guest, David Ramos, who is making, I think, his very first appearance on this show, even though I know for a fact he has driven up to see me in our old studio back in like 2021, somewhere around there when we were certainly debating Jalen Hurts, but I don't believe there is any debates in this episode. We are just spreading the love fest of Jahad Campbell, diving a little deeper into my tweener theory with Vic Fangio. It's not really actually a theory anymore. It's just what's happening. And plenty more. And I invite you to jump into our Discord as well or become a member of the Watching the Birds Social Club, which the link is below. Every member that is wearing a hat is automatically a co-host on this. Or if you want to sign up in our Discord and say, hey, I just want to be on the show sometime, we just kind of keep it in order of who signs up when. And that is how you talk birds with me. Very simple. Let's get into it with Mr. Ramos. We've got plenty to talk about. I've noticed that people are already kind of like, at least at training camp, and that goes from like Martin Frank to ESP. Oh my God, CB2 looks a little awful, or hey, they really should bring another safety in. I don't agree with any of that.
None.
I don't agree with
there
any
with
of that.
you. Listen, if the worst thing that can happen to Keely is that he's getting burned by AJ Brown, tell you what, there's 64 other cornerbacks in the NFL that get burned by AJ Brown. That is not the worst thing that can happen to you at camp in Philadelphia. So that's totally fine. Now, safety wise, you know how I feel about Sidney Brown. I'm not gonna get on your pod and talk ill about him.
You can. No, that's what you're supposed to give your opinion. If that means it's ill, so be it. Come on, what's wrong with Sidney Brown?
Okay, so Sidney Brown, physically, he is a specimen for what he can do. His problem is not physically. It's not his physicality. It's in here. It's mentally. The bad angles, the running too hard, the putting your head down, the heat-seeking missile, but missing the heat part of it. Like, you can't do it. Basically, Drew Makuba is everything that people think Sidney Brown is, with better tackling, better instinct, but just not there physically, right? He's a $190. Like, he's small for his position. He is. But what he lacks in size and strength, you can see in how he tackles. He's a very, very smart tackler, and that he does not put his body in at risk. Well, as Sidney Brown, you see him just launch himself into midair and nothing, taking his own teammates out at some point. And I'm like, dude, like, what are you doing? So when people are like, well, yeah, he was injured, he missed time, and I'm like, okay, let's say he was injured. Even at the end of the season, when the season was done and everything, it was McCollum getting snaps. And we saw how bad McCollum was. And still, he was the one getting the reps. And the only extended time that Sidney ever got was in week 18, when the league was, we already said what we were going to do, right? And we were playing this horrible team that we already know we were going to blow out, so it didn't matter. So it's like, I have zero faith in Sidney. I got really excited in the draft because I saw him play versus Laporta, who I had as tight end 1 that season. And he covered him very, very well for that size mismatch and everything. But it's just, some things just don't translate to the NFL. And I just don't think that he does. Like, he's just limited in what he can do.
That's what I see, too. And you and I are pretty much in agreement with Sidney. The reason why I love him is because he's reckless, which is why he's a special teams captain. You have to be reckless, And if he doesn't want to work on that, that's fine. You're not going to work out in Vic Fangio's system. It's the same reason why CJGJ is not here either. He's sloppy.
Yes. Exactly. I was telling to somebody, I'm like, listen, what can Sidney Brown do poorly? Doesn't play discipline. He doesn't play good angles. He's a bad tackler. All 3 things that Vic Fangio hates in his players. Like, he will take a player that is not physically gifted or anything along the lines that Sidney Brown has, or fast, but if you're disciplined and you can tackle well, he would rather play you. Like, he'd rather put his chips on you than put him on this other guy that, I mean, we saw with the Huff, like, there's that famous clip, right, with Jalen Carter, that he's trying to talk, and Jalen Carter's trying to tell him something, and Hufford just wants to do his thing. Like, dude, that does not work here. Like, you're within a system, and if Jalen Carter tells you to do something, I don't care if you're the top tier free agent that you signed this season. You do what Jalen Carter tells you to do. Like, that's not how this works. Like, there's a pecking order. I don't care how much money you sign for. You are not the most important person on this defense. So it's, I just I don't get it there with Sydney. I don't get what people see. A lot of people love him. I think they love his heart. I think they love his story. I love his story. Great story. Great coming up with his brother and everything. I have nothing against him, the person. I have everything against him, the player, as a starting safety in the NFL. You want to play special teams, brother? Do your thing. Go kill it. Go kill somebody running 50 miles down the field and slamming your head into somebody. That is what you do well. Go do it well.
Yeah, and you had said it best. I don't think that people understand Makuba's game quite yet, which leads
Yeah.
me to why we're talking in the first place. Like you and I were really in agreement with a tweet I had, whatever it was, 5 days ago, a week ago, basically laying out, like, if you thought that Cooper DeJean's impact in his rookie year was something special, I can't wait for you guys to see Jihad Campbell. And you were the only one that was truly obsessed, like, way before it was even talked about being an Eagles target. I had just kind of put it off again. I was like, God, first round linebacker, like, they're not going to do it. I don't care if they just won a Super Bowl or Vic demands it. They're going to stick to their program. And then, of course, they
Right.
signed a running back to another historic deal.
Right.
paid
So I'm like,
paid another.
anything can happen at that point.
So,
And
yeah, tell me about Jihad Campbell first, your obsession, like, just what comes off and, like, what you see him doing here.
yeah, so and you put it out there, and I told you, like, I agree with you. And even in the player rankings, I even told you, like, the Michael Williams, the Jalen Walker, all these people. Jack Campbell is much better than them as a player, but position wise, it's not important to the league. Now, those are coming up again. Linebackers matter again because running backs matter again. Now, Jihad Campbell, right? I was looking at comparisons, and I'm not saying this is who he is or this is who he will be, but if I'm going to compare Jihad Campbell to other linebackers that are coming to league, I'm going to compare him to the top tier linebackers. So what I did is I cross-referenced him versus Fred Warner, Patrick Willis, and Luke Kuechly. That's the tier where I believe how impactful he can be. So basically, physically, he is carbon copy Fred Warner. That's physically who he is, with bigger hands and faster. That's who we got. Production wise, it's also again Fred Warner. Now Luke Kuechly, his negative was that people thought that his tackles were they were just stat padding, right? Bunch of empty tackles. We don't know what this is. So if we go to Fred Warner, that's who I'm gonna pigeonhole him in as. That's We have Fred Warner with pass rushing skills. Now I know that Fred Warner can sack the quarterback; he's done it before. But I have an important stat for you. Now, what does Zach Bond have in common with N'Kobe Dean and now Jihad Campbell? Because N'Kobe Dean, when he came out of college, he was very good at rushing the passer, very good at getting behind the line of scrimmage. So, Fred Warner, only once in his career has he ever had 3 sacks or more. Only once, and that was his second year in the league, right? And that was under Saleh. Saleh's scheme is very different now. But in the first year under Fangio, Lil Kobe Dean, 3 sacks. Zach Bond, who was a former edge in college, 3.5 sacks. Now, you can see a trend where this is going, and you bring somebody, a 5-star recruit that came into the college being an edge rusher that can play linebacker. That so now you know what Fangio's already thinking. Okay, now it brings me to the New Orleans Saints game. I remember it was a very tough game. I was at the game. It was a great game, and what they did was they started doing that 5-6 man line, and you would see that Zach Bond had to go to the edge, so N'Kobe had to be in the middle, and that was it. So it was a very weird alignment. But when you have a man like Jihad Campbell, and you have Bond, and you have Dean, uh, I think the Eagles may be more in base now. I know nickel is more what they usually for, because you got to get Cooper DeJean on the field at all times. That I love what Fangio is doing, making him play safety, because you want that guy on the field at all times. But if you go base and you go with 3 backs, realistically, are we going with three middle linebackers when you have a Nakobe Dean, a Jihad Campbell, and a Zach Bond on the field? You're really not. You're really having basically you can have a six-man front with two edges while still having Nakobe Dean in the middle, or you can just swap Bond in there, and but you have that people that can set the edge, people that can sack the linebacker. And you want to talk about true sideline to sideline speed, man. You see Jack Campbell going sideline to sideline with no issue. Why does Nolan Smith have such impressive sacks sometimes? His chase ability, right? 4.3 speed. We've seen that where he goes around, he has to chase somebody down. You saw it when he sacked Jaden Daniels. You saw him when he sacked Jordan Love. His ability to chase down players behind the line of scrimmage is elite. What you're seeing with Jihad Campbell is something similar, something that he can chase sideline to sideline in a way that you're not going to get to the line of scrimmage. If you go, I put a tweet out there. If you go, I want to see the first time a team tries to run an outside zone versus on Jihad Campbell's side. Now, that's not going to go very well. So going back to comparison of stats, you saw if in Fred Warner's college stats, right? In his the last year he played there, he had 67 tackles, 11.5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. Guess what Jihad Campbell had on his last season with Alabama, right? We're talking about the player that had 11.5 tackles for loss, 5 sacks. So we're seeing what these players that have silent to silent speed can do and how they can be effective both in the run game, because you're not getting to the line of scrimmage, and if you are, you're getting thumped. Because that's what Fred Warner's, one of his negatives was that he doesn't always make good point of contact. He's not a good thumper. And that's something that Jihad Campbell does. When he hits you hard, and he wants to bend you backwards. Because, you always see that Jackson Dart tackle, whatever, it's an open heart tackle and open heart. You see that open field tackle, and you see Jackson Dart helmet just flying out. But no, he does that to running backs. He does that to players behind the line of scrimmage too. So that's the type of player that is going to make offensive coordinators try to think, where is he now? And in the same way that they were trying to see, where is Zach Bond? Okay, there's Zach Bond. Let's try this on the other side. So when you have a Zach Bond and a Jihad Campbell in the middle, covering both sides, what are you going to do? Go up the middle? Go into a much slimmer Jordan Davis? Run into Jalen Carter? So it's really about, they're going to have to pass a lot. Like, there's no way you're going to run on this team. There's zero chance you're going to run on the Philadelphia Eagles next year. No way. I just can't see it happening, right? What is my obsession, to your point about tweeners, about Jihad Campbell? Jihad Campbell could do so many things, and so many things well, that this player can just go in, and then we're going to be talking about 4 to 5 years about, how is this player even available at 30? Why? And they're going to go back to, well, middle linebackers, position, the value of the position. And this is going to where next year you're going to see people taking a middle linebacker in the middle half of the league, in the top half of the draft. And then it's the 15. Well, no, this player, no, you saw what these linebackers are doing now. Let maybe 10 is the better line now. So you're going to see this shift in the way running backs are shifting now, the same way with linebackers, because they're going to be so important how the game is changing again. And I don't want to say devolving, because that's very negative, but kind of going back to how that run game is so important, that all these players that keep trying to throw for 4,000 yards, 5,000 yards is not getting you anywhere. Those are empty stats. You are throwing for that much because you're losing. That is why. You want to know why you're losing? Because the other team is running it down your throat, and you're passing a lot because you're trying to catch up. And the other team is controlling the clock so well that, why? Because they have a good running game. Maybe the other team doesn't have a good linebackers. You saw it versus the Rams. Why was it possible for the Eagles to run for so many yards versus the Rams? Their defensive line is ridiculous. I'll say that right now. Jared Verse, as much as I don't know if Eagle fans still hate that guy. That guy is insane. He's good. I respect for what he did. I respect that he talked his talk and he backed it up. Awesome player. But we're gonna start seeing this shift, and I think Jihad Campbell is one of those players that's gonna start that shift.
Yeah, there's so much to dive into there, and you get me jacked up with all of it. And the one thing,
I'm sorry.
No, I love it. I love it because it triggered a thought I didn't think I'd ever have. We have been talking about I will say the evolvement of whatever the linebacker is, and to an extent, whatever the safety is in today's game. Like, there is a clear, you're always going to have a prototypical safety that can cover, that can come up and hit, and that is going to be one guy in your alignment. But all of these guys now are exactly that. They were DNs that were either transfer or safeties that became off-ball linebackers, essentially, like with the exception of Kobe Dean. And we know why, because of his size and all that stuff. But everybody else, now you've got the upgraded version, a serious upgraded version of Nakobe Dean's role. And that is why, my friend, I don't think this is just regular crossover training in the first week of camp. I do think that you are going to have to put Cooper DeJean on the outside in some looks if you want everybody to be a part of that. And the thing that is crazy, to your point of like, it is a funky alignment and no one can fucking solve it. That's what's like, if just by putting Bond at the last second in whatever alignment they want him to be, whether it's like, ABC gap or like backing up the zero, Jordan Davis or whoever it is to cause confusion. Now you can mirror that. Like, it's like having two number one corners on each side, essentially, on your middle linebacking position. We're like, now it's Campbell that's going to shoot, and he's only going to look like he's going to shoot because he's actually going to back up and help cover, and here comes Bond. Like, it's just insane. And then you have got, by Bond's old words, some really vet shit coming out of a rookie from Iowa that understands the spacing and knows when to cross and hit you, because they're like, Patrick Mahomes, there's the window. Oh shit, it's not there anymore. Like, confusion is going to be insane because the other thing, I wonder if you agree with what I said on the last show, is that I see Makuba, Campbell, Bond, and DeJean all kind of trading spots if they wanted to on certain looks. They can do 100%. Whatever the fuck they want, essentially.
Listen, I remember at one point we saw, I forget who it was. I think we saw Josh Sweat. Well, not the same player, but we saw Josh Sweat align against a wide receiver, and everybody looked at it and it was like, Fangio, what the hell are we doing? The first time that we see Jahad Campbell lined up in front of a receiver, a lot of people are gonna be like, "What are we doing? We have Jahad Campbell on this slot receiver. They're gonna target him." I'm like, "Bet, target him. See what happens."
Yeah, like you've got essentially two. I don't even know how to describe it. Two edge rushers who are off-ball linebackers that can kind of play safety, right? Yeah. Like, it's just kind of and. It never help me out here. Why does Vic Fangio win this way? What am I missing? No tweeners ever work outside of his little circle.
You know why I think it is? I think is the simplicity of it. I think it's the fact that all these defensive coordinators are trying to reinvent the wheel. Let's pass rush this. Let's try this. What if they essentially want to be the Ben Johnson of the defense? They want to try all these things. And Vic Fangio says, like, no, we're gonna play this. We're gonna be very simple. This is what you guys are gonna do, and we're gonna do it well. And that's it. And people just buy into it. I think the whole thing that happened in Miami, maybe they would just thought, this is too simple. Fangio is too stern. He's talking to us a certain way. Like, this is not gonna work. Maybe they didn't get the buy-in. But when you get people, and this is how this defense works, I believe it's just a sum of all the parts of it. When you get players like Nakobe, that at the end of the day, Nakobe is a tone setter with how he carries himself, how he plays. Jalen Carter, who is a very quiet person, but I do believe he has that presence about him. That when you have players that played in championship games in college and have known success and known to listen, people like Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, and all these people, then you get a Vic Fangio to kind of coach you and teach you. Then you're like, I'm going to listen to this guy. I'm not bigger than everything I see here. I'm not bigger than the name on my chest. I'm part of something. So they understand what that is. And because they, listen, and also listening to Fangio is not the same as listening to this up and comer that, what have you been doing? I'm a 5-star recruit. I made all this money in NIL. I got paid this fat contract. Why am I listening to you? Like, this is the first time you're at DC. I think there's a thing there where you're listening to this man. I'm like, yeah, I work with Kirby Smart. He's proven. I work with Nick Saban. He's proven. And I've won with them. Maybe I should listen to this person too. I think it's that level of players that you're also drafting in that interview that you get players that are gonna get the buy-in, that are they don't think they're bigger than themselves. And you're noticing this, right? With even with Jalen Hurts saying that, the whole that famous quote, money is good, championships is better. Now you're hearing Jalen Carter say something about the lines of, "Hey, I came to the NFL to win championships. I didn't came here to make money." So it's that type of player that you draft that is gonna get the buy-in
Are
of
you,
the
David
defensive coordinator.
Ramos, trying to tell me right now that culture beats scheme?
Yes, actually, yes,
Got him.
I am, because it's insane, man. I can't. I'm looking at these players. They have it's something about them that what. Yeah,
No,
yeah,
I see, and that's where I think it was a duel of we definitely bullied Howie and the front office over the years to be like, just draft SEC players. But
yeah,
what we're really saying is, can you please draft some Nick Saban or Kirby Smart players because of the
yeah,
program that they developed and all the black bag money that they established? I'm not talking about all the bad politics of college football. Why would I do
yeah,
that? But whatever, they figured it out. That is the best thing to a pro system that you have in terms of mentality and mindset. And even to your point of like, if coming in, obviously there was a bunch of stuff being said about Jalen Carter, some of it rightfully so. And you thought that this guy was like going to be a loose cannon. But as you pointed out, he's telling a vet in Bryce that like, hey, dude, you got to start doing your
yeah,
job.
yeah,
And didn't listen to him. And now you hear training camp reports of like, even though, and by the way, just because I'm thinking about it, I'm giving it another week before I'm concerned about Jalen Carter's supposed injury to his shoulder and why they're kind of holding him to a limited thing.
you know,
But outside of that, he's yelling and screaming, and it looks like he's taking on a major vocal or leadership role because he knows
yeah,
he has to. So to your point, Kirby Smart did his job there.
yeah. He did. And you see these players, they come in, and I'm not really concerned about Jalen Carter. I think he played a lot of snaps, the most snaps of a defensive tackle in this season last year. Uh, do I think he has a potential injury? Yes. I don't think it's nothing, but I think it's one of those things where Nick is going to be, if the smallest injury that you have, the smallest discomfort that these players have, I'm going to hold you out until you're 100%, because it's worked, right? It's worked
Yeah.
for him. We were relatively healthy last year, but also the roster construction kind of allowed it. Like, even with Malata, if you would have told me that Malata was gonna be out for the many games that he was last year, and we would have been fine, I would have called you a liar,
Yep.
right? And so I think we just want to stay healthy, and especially Carter. You don't want to, because if Carter gets injured, I think there's a severe drop in how that defense attacks and how that defense acts. And this is not a detriment. I'm not speaking ill of the other 10 players on the team. I'm just playing that Jalen Carter is just that good. He's just that good that he just predicates what the offense is going to do. There's nobody on there, no offensive coordinator saying like, hey, let's plan for Nolan Smith. I love Nolan Smith. You know that. Let's plan for Jalix. Nobody's saying that, right? I love these players. They're all great players. And they're not saying, hey, let's, where Quenya Mitchell is, let's attack somewhere else. No, they want to know, where is Jalen Carter? You take that player out, you're done. So I think it's just rest. I think he's just feeling some sort of some point of comfort. And I'm like, no, you're resting, because you're about to have another Pro Bowl season, and knock on wood, you're about to go get your second ring. So you're resting today.
Yeah, like you've got Michael Jordan at quarterback, you got Michael Jordan at D tackle, and you got Michael Jordan at CB1. So that's like,
yeah, exactly.
It's kind of, you are doing exactly that, and not everybody can be Michael Jordan. So that's where I kind of come in back with all of this. Like, man, you just have so many other different pieces you can do around that, and that's what everyone has told us, from Daniel Jeremiah to Howie Roseman's actions, is yes, now you're in the let's build around our stars NBA style, and let's find some role players that can fit into this, and they've nailed it. Like with Jihad Campbell, they've nailed it. We haven't even touched on like half of the stuff that they could do with him alone. And, let's fanboy out for a second, because speaking of the captain, that's the only thing I keep getting excited about. We genuinely have a guy that does not put alcohol in his body, that does not wear a ring, that sets the tone before you even walk into the room to allow these guys to go party their ass off, because he's the most important coach aside from the actual head coaches and everybody else there. Like, I think it's going to be so hard between what you just discussed, from like those guys getting the Kirby Smart experience to Jalen Hurts getting the everything experience from college to pro. They will never, ever believe that they have done shit year in and year out the moment that clock starts again. So I'm just going to fucking say it. All those things and thoughts about Dynasty have to be in your mindset now, by the tone of it, the age of it, and the literal bullets that they have to do it. Like, I think it's very possible for 3. I know it's near impossible because but like, this is the best window I have ever seen in Philadelphia sports history. Do you agree with that?
I agree 100%, because people say, right, and they're like, well, you lost so many people on defense. Yeah, we knew that. We knew that 2 years ago. We prepped for that. The pieces are there. Like, you can't say there's, other than strong safety, and I'm only saying this because Mukuba is a rookie. Other than the other safety position, there's not a single hole on that defense. There's none. You can't say that. And even if you think about it, well, Cooper's been playing safety with Reed, so he's on the field. Then there is none. There's not a weakness. You can't find a weakness. What is it, Ringo? If there's a video out there from Eric Eagles XOXO. He's really good, by the way. He explains how, if Ringo struggles and if they're concerned about Ringo, you either play Adoree Jackson, who can play very well in that system because he's a very good zone coverage a cornerback, or you simply align the defense with the safeties to help him, and then that's it. You're done, right? There's nothing that's going to prevent this defense from being what it is, right? Now, is it going to change? Absolutely, it's going to change, and that's the beauty of it. And Landon said it well. The 2024 Eagles don't exist anymore. They're done. They're dead. Past. This new team is so different, right? And it's going to attack different. They're going to play different, especially on defense, because now Fangio has all these other things to play with. And I'm like, hey, let's put all these guys, to your point. Let's put Bond, Cooper, Dean, and Reed, and all these players in the middle of the field, and let them guess where everybody's going. Because they don't know. Like, they're in base defense. Oh, let's pass. Go ahead, pass. Be my guest, right? You're trying to pass against a linebacker with 4.5 speed, that has 32-inch arms, that is 6'3", that can cover wide receivers down the field. Get the hell out of here, man! What are you doing? Like, what is your plan here? So it's like it's not going to be the same defense. I think they're going to change a little bit, but again, it's going to be simple. It's going to be effective. And the other thing I forgot to mention about why is it so good, and you saw it with Cooper when Cooper came in. It's, if you noticed how they talked, the communication in that backfield, when things shift, when things would talk, how everybody was just in sync. It was a thing of beauty. You would just see everybody pointing, talking, go there, and they would just move and shift. And then when the ball snapped, because it's what Fangio does, right? And the ball snapped, they would or just move again. It's something that's incredible to see. I'm like, what am I looking at? Why have I never truly appreciated this level of defense, like this type of defense? I was always the fan of, Jim Schwartz. I was always the fan of Jim Johnson, rest in peace, the attacking defenses, all these things. But I've never sat down and was like, wow, this is incredible. Like, what is this? Right. And it's going to stay like that, but I think it's going to be more creative because of the players that he has now. Like, you give a man like Vin Fangio, who is a linebacker guru, that all he does is give linebackers Pro Bowls. All pros. That's all he does. He makes his middle linebackers all pros. And you give him a guy like Jihad Campbell? Come on.
Yeah, dude.
Like, why?
It would be like giving Stoutland a 3 years in Jordan Mailata and hand it right over to him. Be like, here you go, dude. Yeah. The development's already done. Like, if you speed that up, that's exactly what I think too. And it's just It's gonna be it's too, who cares what all the chatter is about? Too talented. It's a super team. It's not super team. They change their mind every 5 fucking seconds. You'll never change the mentality of this team. And
and the whole the whole super team mentality, the chatter, right? This is what I find interesting. Okay, super team, right? When people say super team, I think about the dream team of the Eagles. The things that I think it's a player that it's a team that you bought, that you signed a bunch of free agents, the best free agents out there, and you bait them. If that is the case, if this is in fact a super team, how come 20 of 22 starting players were drafted?
Yeah.
Sorry, 19. How come 19 players were drafted? That is not a super team. All those players that were drafted still had to be developed, right? Jalix, the round pick, insanely raw. Nolan Smith, how many people passed on him because he was so small? Reed Blankenship, UDFA. Quinyon Mitchell, nobody wanted him. He fell all the way down. Keely Ringo, first round pick. Nakobe Dean, what I forget where he was drafted.
Third round pick over the Desmond Ridder pick that I wanted.
Third round pick, right? Jordan Mailata, 7th round pick. Tyler Steen, 3rd round pick. So, Cam Jurgens, everybody, I will never forget Julian and going up in arms about Cam Jurgens. Like, all these players were drafted and developed. Don't blame us that your GM sucks, that your position coaches suck, that your head coach sucks, and all that front office and all those collective coaches that you have on your team have no idea what the fuck to do with their players. That is not our fault, right? Yeah. A lot of players that are drafted, in my opinion, who you are as a player that get drafted, that's about 50% of what matters in the NFL. The other 50 is who's coaching you or who drafted you. And at the end of the day, you can be the most talented person in the world. But in the NFL, once you get there, it means nothing.
But why is that so hard for people to understand? Because we've lived a 15-year football life with so many examples. The most glaring one is standing in fucking Pittsburgh right now. Aaron Rodgers is the most talented quarterback anyone has ever seen.
Ever.
No one will give a shit. Like Drew Brees is probably the subbest version of that and had the greatest coach of the time understand what you had to do in order for Drew Brees to go win as an accurate passer or whatever. Like, we're talking about Eli Manning's 2 Super Bowls don't exist without a helmet catch and somehow the defensive line getting to one of the best teams we've ever seen in our life, and it's never talked about. So it's this guy, Tom Brady, literally a guy that was who everyone points to as the great, was considered a low-life piece of shit that nobody wanted, and and then they built an entire dynasty around this man, and then when he finally caught up to it, now he's the greatest of all time. We're seeing a carbon copy of it happen here. The Eagles happen to be the Patriots of this era, something you and I never thought would come out of our mouth, first of all. And now we're on the precipice of possibly being one of those teams. That is why, last things from me, Ramos. One, Jeffrey Lurie is settling into that Jerry Jones territory, and I think it's pissing off the NFL with great vengeance that he finally figured it out. And 2, it sounds like the Eagles well, I know for a fact that they wanted a new stadium for a very long time. Everyone's kind of redebating this again. I brought it up last year. The Eagles need a dome. It's just better that we accept it now. And I don't understand the poopy pants people that get all bent out of shape when they start yelling you for like football is an outdoor sport and all this. Yeah, that's fantastic. It also almost cost us a Super Bowl because it kept the Rams in a playoff game. I appreciate every snow game.
I'll be right with you.
It is not necessary. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I want a retractable dome is what I want.
I think that satisfies everybody.
I think it's a win-win both ways, and that way you don't get all the other people that want the weather games mad, and you get all the people that, maybe it's too hot, maybe it's too cold, and it's not going to benefit anybody. Like if it's the Bills coming in, there's no you're not getting an advantage there. They play in the snow too. So just retract that thing and then let's go. Let's play under a dome.
That's right. We'll just close it up from the middle of October on, and we're good.
Yeah. Like if it's the 49ers and Tua coming into, you leave that thing open. Let it snow. Let's go.
David Ramos, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you hanging out. Go to work. Get out of here. I love you.
Bye.